Sacramento icon. I mean, we go on and on just talking about the things he's done for the Kings and for the Monarchs. Kings former coach, GM, legendary broadcaster. Jerry Reynolds with us. How are you today, Jerry? I'm sure you're very excited.
I am very excited, and definitely I was ready for you to go on and on about my icon status. I'm okay with that. I could have added a couple of things to it.
I certainly could have, but I wanted to make sure we took full advantage of the chance to ask you some questions. I didn't get to the old-fashioned 3 podcast. I should probably mention that, huh?
Well, you should, because it's obviously one of the great podcasts of all time, and certainly you and Phantom don't hurt it too much.
Where do you think the Kings' best chance to compete, maybe win this series? Where do those chances lie, Jerry?
I think they've got if I had to bet, and I wouldn't bet on basketball ever, because I like most people, I'm wrong most of the time, but you'd have to make the Warriors the favorites, but I think it's a little closer than some people think. I think it's more of a 40-60, and the reason they have a chance, maybe even a better chance to win, is the Kings can score every night. Certainly the Warriors can. Both teams are weak defensively, but one thing where the Kings are better, or they have been, I think they'll continue to be, they take care of the ball much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in an up and down game, that really could make the difference. I think you look at the benches, they're pretty close. Probably the Warriors, now that Wiggins is back and Payton is playing pretty close to himself, you'd have to give them the advantage there.
All right, Jerry. I mean, I'll give you a little bit more praise. You're someone who has your jersey up in the rafters for being the GM with the Monarchs. I walk in every single day to Golden One Center to the Jerry Reynolds media entrance, and you're clearly just you're so tied in with this team. With the history of this team and everything. What does it mean for you personally to see this team finally find success?
Oh, I was just praying, that I'd see him in playoffs before my final resting spot.
Same. Me too. It looked sketchy for a second there.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. It didn't look safe for either you or me. But it's great. The team itself. I mean, it's such a fun team to watch. I've enjoyed it so much all year. Coach Brown has just done an unbelievable job, and certainly Coach of the Year, Monty McNair. Every move he's made has been terrific, and it's just a blast. And then the fact they get to play the Warriors. I mean, both teams finally in Northern California are playoff worthy and competitive. That's just double good.
Jerry Reynolds with us, and of course, all guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Can Mike Brown's keen knowledge of the Warriors and how they do everything, can that, to a degree, Jerry, perhaps offset the great advantage the Warriors have in terms of playoff experience?
Mm-hmm. I think it could help.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, but the Warriors are the Warriors, and certainly he knows them well. But I don't, knowing what Steph Curry does well doesn't mean anybody
right.
never have. I always say, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, I remember I really knew pretty much what Larry Bird was going to do, but we had no success against him.
Doesn't mean you can stop him.
He could probably tell you what he was going to do, and you still couldn't stop him, right?
Well, he did, and I always remember telling Harold Presley was going to guard him. I said, "This is what you do, and this is blah blah blah." And Harold turned to me and said, "You don't really think I can do it, stop it, do you?" I said, "Harold," and I told Harold, I said, "You got no shot, but that's okay."
Well, Jerry, I mean, you mentioned Steph Curry there. What can Mike Brown possibly do? I mean, do you even try and slow down Steph Curry? Do you just try and lock down the other guys? What do you think's the best route for the Kings to go defensively? Do you try and slow down Steph, or do you focus on the other guys? Exactly, Fox, or do you just go Fox and one?
Well, the Fox and one might work on Fox. I don't know about Steph, but I will say this: I think you have to try to, because he's capable of getting 50 or 60.
Right.
I mean, he's one of the all-time greats. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's proven it so many times. And so you have to try some different things. I kind of expect Davion Mitchell to play a little more, and just because, he can't stop Steph, but he's enough of a pest and is a great defender that, you'll see the Warriors be forced into making extra screens and things like that, which, takes time off the clock, maybe makes a tougher shot. It's just going to be the little things that make the difference. But I think you do have to put an extra focus on Steph. The worst thing in the world is let him get in a rhythm and get comfortable looks.
Jerry, can you remember the loudest you ever heard Arco during the playoffs, or maybe just one or two of the times it was the loudest you ever heard it in there?
Well, the loudest for sure was in 1996. The Kings, led by Mitch Richmond, playing the Seattle Supersonics, which I think they were the number one team in the West at that time, with Peyton and Detlef Schrempf and those guys. And the Kings had split up in Seattle and came down, and it was just amazing because the team hadn't been in the playoffs for 10 years at that time, from 86 to 96, and it was amazing. I mean, from the time the team trotted out on the floor, it was before the game, it was standing ovations all the time. So I've never seen anything like that. I mean, there's been some, obviously Game 7 and other games have been extremely loud, but that was the most outstanding.
Yeah, Saint said the same thing. Saint talked about that too.
He did.
Yeah.
Jerry, I that makes me think. Everyone always thinks that during an extended playoff drought like the Kings had 16 seasons, outsiders look at that situation and they think, oh, that must have been terrible, unfun, no memories made in that 16 years. But that's just not true. There were so many things that we all remember from those 16 years, even during the drought. When you think back on this 16-year playoff drought that the Sacramento Kings have had, and you've had a front row seat to a lot of these moments, but what are some of your favorite moments that just stick out from the drought?
Well, I think during the drought, I think the Tyreke Evans Rookie of the Year season. I don't know that it did Tyreke as much good in his career as it should have, because it was a bit of a bogus stats, but it made an otherwise dreary year interesting, and Tyreke was terrific. Certainly didn't have the kind of career he was capable of for various reasons, but so that comes to mind. I mean, I think then you're always looking at just some individual performances periodically, but I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of years where when after I'd quit working for the Kings, I'd be home watching the Kings and just turn them off and go to another game, to be honest with you, and watch Dallas or Phoenix or teams that were playing, or the Warriors. I really watched the Warriors a lot because they were so much fun to watch. And, and that's where I got spoiled with those great years with the Kings in the late 90s and early 2000s. But, and I think Kings fans did too. And so it's so great to get back to having not just a good team, but a really fun team, an unselfish, fun team to watch, much like Warrior fans have had for a decade.
So, we're talking, of course, to Jerry Reynolds. Win or lose this series, how capable do you think this team is, this Kings team, of getting back to the playoffs over a stretch of the next several years?
I think they're set, really. I mean, they got a terrific coach, GM. They've got basically a young team. Harrison Barnes is the only guy, over 30, and I think he is just 30, and he's really playing at his best. So I would expect at least three good years out of Harrison. So this team, honestly, I think both teams, quite honestly, are set to be in the playoffs several more years. But and I think that the Kings are better prepared to go 6 or 7 years, as opposed to the Warriors may have to redo it. As good as Steph and Clay are, they're not going to, and Draymond, they're not going to be playing forever. I'm pretty sure of that. And I mean, I think they're closer to maybe having to redo their team than the Kings.
Well, Jerry, we appreciate your time very much, and I hate to have to share this with you because I don't think you're going to like it, but we have a poll going today on YouTube, just having some fun, kind of silly, but we're asking people what inspirational movie would you want the Kings to watch tonight to make sure they're in the right frame of mind. And we have Remember the Titans, which is Chris's nomination. That's number one at 31%. The Rocky films, Rocky 1, all the Rocky films, 25%. Twilight, which Deuce nominated, which is like a vampire movie, is 24%. And Hoosiers is only 19%. And I put it up there because I knew you were going to be on, and I knew you wouldn't come on if we didn't have it up there. But it's currently trailing Remember the Titans, Rocky, and Deuce's Twilight vampire movies, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Well, I did see the poll, by the way, before I came on, and it doesn't surprise me about Deuce because he really needs some counseling. We've got to get a hold of him before it's too late.
Yeah.
But clearly the fans that voted obviously are probably under 40 years old, so you got to discount a lot of that. But Hoosiers is by far the best. Is actually based on Milan, Indiana, and Muncie Central, Indiana, in a high school championship game, very accurately. And Milan was 120 enrollment. Muncie Central was 2,400 enrollment in an open class state at that time. One of the all-time great stories. So for anybody that wants to dispute that, just go away, because you need to. You had Dennis Hopper and Gene Hackman in there.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. All right, maybe it'll make a run now. Yeah.
What is wrong with those people? Do you not try to help them?
Well, we do what we can. And I'm sure you've given the movies cause here a big boost of the movie's chances. Thanks. You're the best, and I will talk to you next week, sir. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Well, enjoyed it. You guys are great, and do what you can for Deuce, please.
We're on it.
I got you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, Jerry.
Jerry Reynolds.
You guys.
Yeah, take care. Coming up. Wait a minute. There are other series going on too? Well, we might as well tell you who's going to win those coming up on the Sactown Sports Playoff Push.